Hello there, dear viewers. Welcome to the Musings of Maverick channel. I'm your host, Maverick. Today, we are going to be starting a new series, and that is, of course, Genjitsu Shugi Yuusha no Oukoku Saikenki, otherwise known as how a realist hero rebuilt a kingdom, the kingdom, some kingdom, which I am going to shorten to realist hero for now. The Japanese way of shortening things, I don't think it really makes sense in an English context, so let's just call it realist hero, right? I feel like that pretty much tells you all you need to know. For any of you new guys around here, maybe this is the first time you're watching me, hello, welcome to the channel. I typically do my videos and divide them into 3 different parts. I have an intro or recap at the very beginning, my blind reaction in the middle, and then finally I will follow it up with what I call my musings section, which is where I give a more in-depth review of, the actual episode, the original work, any references, or any kind of concepts or philosophical items that the anime might have in question. They'll all be timestamped below, so just jump to whichever part that you like. And especially for a series like this one, right? I do feel like looking a little bit deeper at some of the concepts it entails is going to be much more interesting, right? This is supposed to be a series where you think a little bit more, right? Anyways, so getting into the introduction part, I think I should preface this first by saying I do know of the original work, and in fact I have read the first 3 or 4 volumes of the light novels already, so this is not going to be entirely blind, alright? So the reason I actually picked up this light novel is actually due to its title, right? I really love the Yuusha series, which which featured basically a concept where a hero and a demon lord had to work together. The demon lord is like super talented. She has all the knowledge of like modern day, different kinds of policies and philosophies and economic reforms, economic theories and so on and so forth, and that is how she gradually rebuilt the entire world, right? And really made the world much more modern. It's a fantastic series. It has an anime adaptation as well, but I highly recommend just reading the manga or the original work. And so I went into this one thinking it was going to be the same, especially, when we're talking about being a realist, that means that you're making the logical decisions, right? You're making the stuff that actually works instead of catering to, emotional stuff, catering to emotions, trying to do something just because you don't want to offend people, or you want to ensure that nobody gets harmed or anything, right? A realist would look at things and do what is good for the whole of the country and whatnot. So I do like that kind of concept, right? It typically forces the person at hand, the person in question, to make a lot of tough decisions. Now, I will say right now, this work is perhaps a little bit lighter on this stuff than I initially expected. Then again, granted, this has gone on for like, I think there's like 15 volumes out already, and I have only read the first 3 or 4, so maybe it gets much more deeper in the future. But as it is right now, I feel like it's kind of skimming on the subjects, but not really getting too deep into all of that. In fact, I would even say that a lot of this work, falls back into, well, I don't want to spoil anything, right? All I'm saying is that it's definitely not quite as dialogue heavy and theory heavy as the other work I just mentioned, which may or may not be a good thing depending on which way you look at this, right? So beyond that, typically when I go through a work first, I'll also take a look at the sort of the fundamentals, I like to call it, and that is, the staff, the cast, how they usually, how it works, like what is the studio doing it. The studio that's doing it is the same one that's doing Danmachi, JC staff, right? So, I mean, I don't have any particular thing for it or against it. And they also do Food Wars as well, I believe. So, I mean, a reputable studio, let's just say. I mean, this isn't exactly a work that's going to be very heavy on the fighting and whatnot. So, as long as it's passable, I think it's fine. The sound director is Jin-san, who I've said many times before is an absolute legend. I love his works. In terms of the cast, now here's where I think things might be a little bit controversial, right? Well, first of all, the main character is being voiced by Kobayashi Yusuke, who is obviously a great voice actor in his own right. I don't have any problem with that. Now, the female lead, though, is being voiced by Minase Inori. And let me preface this by saying that she has a fantastic voice. She is absolutely stellar at what she does. I'm not really sure this role really fits her voice, though. I mean, when I think of Inori, I typically think of more of a lolly kind of voice, to be honest. And, or at least, when I think of her, I think of, like, Hestia, right, from Damachi or whatnot. This princess here, she is more, at least what I remember of her, much more kind of like firm and proper and whatnot. Like, not overly stuck up, like she has her cute moments and whatnot, but it's just not exactly a voice I associate with Inori. So we'll have to see about that, right? I'll reserve my judgment and think about it more after I actually get into the episode. But yeah, so I mean, it's got quite the stellar cast, quite the stellar staff as well. The opening thing is being performed by Minase Inori. The ending thing is performed by Aimi, who is actually another one of my favorite voice actresses. So, all in all, it seems to be something that is very, very solid, right? And I know how it's going to go. I feel like it's going to be solid. Now, whether or not I'm actually going to make a series out of this, let's see, right? Because I really hate doing series which I'm not entirely blind to, because I feel like it takes out a lot of the fun, especially for the reaction parts. But who knows? Maybe I can still think of some good, interesting stuff to say during the review portions that also don't spoil people, right? So, with that being said, let's jump into the episode. Alright, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Alrighty. By the way, some of my longtime viewers might notice that I'm using a different kind of layout right now. But, I mean, it is what it is. Okay. Starting from modern day, alright? I actually should check real quick, like, I kind of... Sorry, I'm just checking real quick how far I read along. Yeah. Okay. About 3 volumes. Bye. No, I've actually completely forgotten how he got isekai'd. No, well, anyways. So I assume this is the opening song by Minase Inori. Oh no, actually this... Oh yeah. Yeah, this is Minase Inori. Yeah, wouldn't it make more sense for her to be Juna instead? I mean, sure. Buncha! Right. Mazu Yuusha yori hajimeyou. Okay, they start from quite a different position than the original light novels. If I'm remembering correctly, they just basically threw him into the situation. And then we get the backstory later while they explain it to him. Okay. Pretty impressive. I actually, that's the beauty of the anime medium, right? It gets to be like much more epic than when you're just reading it. And of course, the shadows, Machiavellian. Yay, it worked. Oh, Yuusha, yo. From whichever standpoint is that way. This king. That's how they're making the demons look? Okay. Bye. And of course, the big dog is the Empire at the very west. Ah, okay, okay, it's her, eh? I see. Huh. Are we actually going that far into this? I see, because this kingdom, if you guys look at the map, you know, they're shielded from all the carnage. You know, another thing that's really funny about all this is, you know, this is obviously the voice actor of Subaru, right? And it's nice to see an actual competent Subaru's right here. This is a smart dude. Honestly, like, this country, there's so many problems with it. Just by looking at the king, his chief advisor, the court. But honestly, if I'm being really honest, like right here, right now, without knowing anything too much into the future, I feel like instead of rejecting the imperial demands, they should still do something to help out, you know, the actual empire. That's this guy's area of expertise. Abdicate! Yeah, like this guy just so effing irresponsible. This actually caused a lot of problems to Kazuya in the future. Huh. They're going this... Wow. These are actually situations we don't learn about until later on in the light novels. Hey! Excel. And of course the Lionheart guy. And here's the princess. Basically, this king is like, you know, I really don't want to do this. Like, you take care of the problems. Just allow me to live my life in peace. I wonder how they're going to, I wonder how they're going to portray this. I hope they don't mess this up. Is this how it... Why don't you ask your father? This is a little bit different from, he's like the perfect public servant, right? Basically, emptying, right? Emptying the royal palace. Right, they're actually really kind of hurrying with this stuff. But basically, the first few chapters of the first volume was going through lots of people being completely surprised by his actions and whatnot. Here's the Navy. Man, they really... Huh. Oh, hold on. We're having an ending here. Oh wait, is that a Code Geass reference? Oh, girl. Yep. And that was the first episode. Alright, see you guys after this. Alright guys, that was the first episode, and hopefully it gave a bit of a sneak peek as to how this new king is, our main character Kazuya, and what he's trying to do, and, he is quite smart. He actually was supposed to be a civil servant in the modern world and whatnot. Probably what you would call part of the bureaucracy, a paper pusher, or so on and so forth. But he would probably enter life into like a government agency and just handle the rest of his lives there. He'd probably be quite good at his work and all that. But this is the situation that he's been thrust in, right? Beyond that, though, I do have to say I'm not entirely on board with some of the changes that they did here, and seeing the changes, I can see why they decided to get Minase Inori to voice Licia, but it's really, I don't know, man. So again, I'm looking at this from the light novel perspective. I haven't read the mangas. I know that there's a manga adaptation, and sometimes they also kind of alter the story a little bit, the setting a little bit, in terms of the light novel versus manga. So I'm looking at this from a light novel perspective, right? So one of the first things I thought of when so first of all, they're really actually giving a lot of foreshadowing into stuff that's going to happen into the future, right? Like the three dukedoms and what they're doing, and the fact that they're going to be sending people to the palace, to the capital and whatnot. Like that is already that is already much more information that was initially given to us in the original light novel. Like, we were solving things one at a time, actually, and without really paying too much attention to that kind of, like, it's much more in your face, I guess you could say, because here's the difference here. In the light novel, what they would say is that, okay, so within this country there are three powerful dukedoms, right, and they are in charge of the military, right, the air force, the land force, and the navy, respectively, and ended at that, basically. And so you have this concept of knowing that, okay, these are the most powerful nobles within this country, and they actually also have a grasp of they have complete control of the military power of this country as well. And you keep that in the back of your mind, right? You don't really look too much, you don't get a comment from them or whatnot, but you basically just say, okay, so this is the current situation here. And the fact that, you are looking at this from a more modern view, right? And you are looking at this from a more realist perspective would allow you to instantly think of other things, right? Knowing, we call upon history to look at the situation and say, okay, this is going to be a very dicey situation here, because it doesn't matter in a non democratic country or whatnot. This is a how can I say it? This is a this what can I say? This is a kingdom, right? Like, the full power is held by the throne and so on and so forth. But the thing is, within these kinds of political systems, those who control the military power are the ones that can eventually get to the throne, right? That is super, super important. History has taught us so many times about that. And so that should be enough for you to think, okay, this is a potential situation that we're going to have to deal with in the future. But let's file that away for now. We have more pressing issues to look at right here. Whereas here in this adaptation, I think they kind of sort of just throw it at you, right? So, they're definitely not as subtle within these kinds of things. There's a lot of other differences where within the novel they actually make a lot of different references to things that are happening, right? It kind of, the light novel goes into detail to describe the situation, to describe the lands, to allow you to see what is actually happening, what you see, and what people think, and so on and so forth, without actually just giving it to you overall. Like, for instance, the scene where Licia met Kazuya for the first time, right? This was completely different, and here I can say that they're kind of sort of changing the princess's personality to be much more of a flustered, easily flustered type of person here, and so I guess that's why they chose to make Minase Inori the voice for this character, because definitely it fits that kind of archetype a lot more. In the original novels, Lisha was much more of a reserved kind of princess, right? And even though, yeah, she does get into some situations where she's she does get into some flusher situations, she gets shy or bashful as well. I'm not saying that those don't happen, but by and large, she keeps her cool, right? She's dignified, actually. I just quickly went back and checked on the novel to see how they describe that situation there. So immediately after, confirming that her father and mother were safe, which was her very first priority, she didn't go into the entire situation thinking to pick a fight with Kazuya, right? Instead, she walked around the palace and then realized that, hey, everybody was walking around with a sense of urgency. Everybody was trying to do things here, and it was not like the sort of relaxed atmosphere that she had been so accustomed to throughout her entire life. And then she's like, okay, so what are you guys doing and whatnot? And then the servants were basically being like, oh, hey, Nick, we're working hard right now. There's so much to do because we just can't, because the king himself is being so proactive in a lot of these matters. He's working 24/7. We feel that we need to do the same as well, right? If the king himself is leading and doing all this work, it doesn't really reflect on us well if we are actually around and slacking off, right? And so they're all like doing 120% of what they can do, really dedicating themselves into making sure that, okay, we can get everything tied down and, start fixing the country as well, right? So even before Lisha met Kazuya, she was, or I guess I should call him Soma, and since they could call him Soma at this point. So even before that, she was basically like, okay, this guy isn't just some sleazy dude who apparently got the throne and is about to, just use his kingly powers to just slack off or anything. No, she realizes that, okay, this is at the very least a very stand-up guy, a very hardworking guy, right? And the entire confrontation scene, the scene where the two actually do met, is done completely differently as well. In this scene here, like, Lisha immediately confronts Kazuya. She's being like, don't you know who I am? I'm the princess. How dare you tell me to do this kind of thing, right? Kazuya, he didn't know who she was. She was just like, okay, you're here, you're educated, come help out, right? And so in the original light novel, they actually describe the situation as, Kazuya did not know who Lisha is. He simply asked the same questions. Okay, you're here, are you educated? And she replied, yes. Can you do these basic arithmetic, and can you do this simple stuff? And she said yes. And then Kazuya was basically, okay, come help me out. And then they literally continued. They just worked in silence for like a few hours. Like, I don't know how many hours. Like from sometime from I don't know, like from noon to evening or something of that sort. They just literally worked, right? And then finally, at the middle of, once they got to a certain point, Lisha, looked up to Kazuya and said, hey, by the way, I'm actually the princess here. And then Kazuya was like, oh, so you're the princess? Well, I did not know that. And then they started this conversation here, right? You get what I'm describing here, which is very different from the confrontational kind of attitude that Lisha gave off here, right? It's very different, right? In how they sort of structure her character. Now with this kind of change, I'm not entirely sure if I agree with these kind of changes, because I actually think the original Lisha was a really badass, no nonsense kind of girl. She's smart, she's capable, and she's ferociously loyal to Kazuya, in the future and whatnot. Whereas here they're kind of making her to be that kind of like more of an your stereotypical Ojo-sama or princessy type of character here, right? I feel like it kind of lessens her character, to be honest, because she was a real badass in the light novel. So, well, we'll have to see, right? But at least initially, from just this first impression, I don't really like the way how they restructured her character here to that. Like, maybe I'm going too far into this, and this is, after all, just the first episode, and it is literally just one scene. But I really, really loved how they did the original scene, the original meeting between Kazuya and Lisha, and for them to actually turn it into something like this, I mean, I don't know, man. it's definitely quite different. You know, the Kazuya here also I feel like is a bit more of a has more of a flair for the dramatic actually than was originally portrayed. Although I guess, you know, considering how he is later on, I guess this isn't too far out of the norm. But, you know, because think about it, right? He was just here. He literally just got this task thrown onto him, and he's from the modern world, right? So he knows that okay, he needs to handle things in a very calm and collected manner, right? You don't want to go around and insult or get on the bad side of other people here. Like, even though you are the king, your position is very, very shaky, right? You need all the allies that you can get. And certainly the actual princess, right? The daughter of the original king, this is definitely someone you want to get on the good side of. And so there is this kind of, overall, for Kazuya, especially for someone like him, he always keeps this in the back of his mind when he's looking at stuff and whatnot, because that's how he is, right? He's a realist, and he's very logical, very methodical in his approach as well, and so, basically that kind of thing. And also, a big difference here is that they are looking at this entirely from Kazuya's perspective, actually. Whereas in the original light novels, they had a ton of monologue, and not just from the main character, but also like from Kazuya's viewpoint, from Lishia's viewpoint, from eventually from the viewpoint of all the other people as well. Their internal monologues and whatnot, and how they approach these situations. So very, very different kind of feel and very different kind of vibe here. I feel like the anime adaptation right now is actually making it even more lighthearted and lighter than the light novel is, in terms of, just a much more cheerful and fun type of atmosphere surrounding everything instead. So yeah, and like I said, they also really jumped the gun and showed us a lot of the future characters, future conflict points and whatnot, and so on and so forth, right? But yeah. Anyways, that's my opinion right now. I'm curious to see if there's any other people here who watch my video who might have also read the light novels, or heck, maybe even the mangas, right? And then maybe, for those light novel viewers, what do you think of this changes currently? For manga viewers, is this actually more in line with what happened in manga or whatnot? Let me know, right? So, and indeed, maybe, just by my description of how Kazuya and Lishia actually interacted the first time they met and how they generally are overall versus what you actually see here in the episode, what do you think, right? Is there a version that you prefer, or so on and so forth, right? But yeah, so I can definitely see how by using this kind of a character, they chose Inori to voice it, and also I can kind of see that maybe we are going to have a bit maybe a bit heavier influence in terms of the harem rom-com stuff instead. Like, speaking of which, now I see on my anime list that harem is actually a listed genre for this series, which I was very, I had a lot of question marks about, because even though, he is a king, after all, he is a king, and a king has his concubines, has his wives and whatnot, and that's pretty much to be expected. And don't get me wrong, this is that kind of work, but it's not a focal point, right? It's simply there. Is the best way I can use to describe it. But knowing that, this is how they kind of change the characters and whatnot, I am actually having my suspicions that they will also focus a little bit more on the romance and the rom-com aspects as well. So we'll have to see about that. Okay, and then finally, I think we should talk a little bit about still the entire setting of this story, right? So, based on what we already know right now, right? Obviously, I don't want to spoil anything. So, I think everything up to this point is still quite reasonable in whatnot. Like, they were talking about how they shouldn't pay tribute to other countries, and instead they should they should be like, screw you, I'm keeping my money for myself, why should I send my money to you? But that is kind of short-sighted, right? That is definitely something that's not entirely or building up a military strong enough to fight them and so on and so forth, so that they don't have to be this kind of tribute-paying nation anymore. I feel like that's kind of being too short-sighted, though. I mean, we clearly see the current situation, right? The demons are invading, and the empire, right? They are the front and foremost of the human nations who are fighting back against the demon lords, right? This is an all hands on deck situation. If you're not able to contribute in terms of manpower or army or in terms of your military, you better do your freaking share of you know, food or supplies or whatnot, because if they fall, well, the next one is you, right? You can't be so short-sighted as to say, oh hey, I'm just gonna sit back, you know, you handle the situation, haha, you're it's too bad that you guys are the ones on the front lines, right? You gotta all work together, otherwise you know, if you don't you know, what's the saying called, if you don't die together, you all die separately, or something of that sort. I'm kind of probably butchering the quote right now, but don't worry, I that is definitely something that will come more prominent in the future. This is way too early for that, but anyways, those are my thoughts for now, and definitely something for you guys to keep in mind as well, right? So yeah, first episode, I don't know, and by the way, let me know, if you guys do want me to continue on this series, from a viewpoint where I'm definitely, I already know everything that's going to happen in this season, and also from the viewpoint where, you know, so far I'm not really liking the sort of changes from the light novel to the anime so far. Let me know, or maybe you know, how do you feel that this should go? Is there anything you want me to go deeper into in terms of my review, my musings and whatnot? So, you know, just let me know, and well, I mean, I guess I will still watch the next few episodes for now. After all, this is only the first episode. You want to kind of get a feel. Maybe my concerns are a little bit unfounded, and later on it really just, you know, all smoothens out and whatnot. So we shall see. Anyways, that's it for the first episode of Realist Hero. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.